However, we are well aware that your wait has been infinitely trying for you and of an entirely different nature than ours. But please know this: in your isolation, you have become a moral voice for the whole world. Today's event is one of the most remarkable in the entire history of the Nobel Prizes. In 1991, you were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, and now I'm quoting the committee at the time, for one of the most extraordinary examples of civil courage in Asia in recent decades. In the committee's opinion, the prize would support the many people throughout the world who are striving to attain democracy, human rights, and ethnic conciliation by peaceful means. 21-year interim has proved the committee right about this. But it is you, Aung San Suu Kyi, who translated the committee's words into reality through your awe-inspiring tenacity, sacrifice, and firmness of principle. Your voice became increasingly clear the more the military regime tried to isolate you. Your cause mobilized your people and prevailed over a massive military junta. And whenever your name is mentioned or when you speak today, your words bring energy and hope to the entire world. You are a precious gift to the world community. Ladies and gentlemen, we have seen it so many times before. Weapons and uniforms without any moral grounding in universal human rights are doomed to fail sooner or later. Fortunately, in today's world, human rights do not recognize national frontiers. Oppressive rulers must know that there will always be courageous individuals who will oppose them, and the world keeps an eye on the oppressors. Suu Kyi could not attend the prize award ceremony on the 10th of December 1991. Granted, she could probably have left her country, but she was afraid that the military regime would be so pleased to see her gone that they would refuse to let her back in again. Other prize laureates who have been unable to come to Oslo to accept their medals have also earned a place in the annals of history. Karl von Ossietzky for his battle against Hitler's Germany, Andrei Sakharov and Lech Walesa for the fight against Soviet communism, and Liu Xiaobo for his struggle to promote human rights in China. Now, Aung San Suu Kyi is finally here. We hope that Liu Xiaobo will not have to wait as long as she has had to before he can come to Oslo. Aung San Suu Kyi is a daughter of the great Aung San, leader of Burma's struggle for liberation. He was murdered before completing his fight for freedom. His daughter was just 2 years old at the time. Her mother was later appointed Burma's ambassador to India. The daughter got a world-class education in her native country, but also in India, at Oxford, in Kyoto and New York. In 1972, she married Michael Harris, a professor and an authority on Tibetan Buddhism. They have 2 children, Alexander and Kim. Initially, Suu Suu Kyi did not show much interest in Burmese politics, but she became more and more interested in Burmese history. Her father's fight for freedom, Buddhism, and Gandhi's policy of non-violence. Her many letters to her husband made it increasingly clear, I only ask one thing, she wrote, that should my people need me, you would help me to do my duty by them. She could also fall into the clutches of fear. Sometimes I am beset by fears that circumstances and national considerations might tear us apart just when we are so happy in each other that separation would be a torment. In March 1988, after 20 years abroad, Suu Kyi was informed that her mother had suffered a stroke. The next day, she left for Rangoon to care for her ailing mother. At the time, the military regime that had run Burma since 1962 was in the throes of crisis. The old dictator Ne Win had to formally step aside. Demonstrations broke out. Many lost their lives when the military forces fired into the crowds. It was not long before Suu Kyi was involved in what became known as Burma's second fight for freedom. As Aung San's daughter and with the indisputable ability as a speaker, she soon emerged as a leader of the opposition. In her first major speech, she addressed herself to the reverend monks and people and said, "This public rally is aimed at informing the whole world of the will of the people. Our purpose is to show that the entire people entertain the keenest desire for a multi-party democratic system of government." Although her mother passed away, Suu Kyi remained in Burma. The military grew to fear the rapid rise in her popularity and placed her in restricted residence. They had promised to hold free elections, and they probably overestimated the chances of winning. But to be on the safe side, though, they initiated a large-scale campaign against Suu Kyi. She was accused of being too foreign and knowing too little about Burma after 28 years abroad. But she responded, "They claim that I know too little about Burmese politics. The trouble is that I know too much." Suu Kyi's party, the National League for Democracy, won 392 of the 485 seats in the National Assembly. Nonetheless, the military ignored the result. Aung San Suu Kyi remained under house arrest. Like so many times before, the Norwegian Nobel Committee reacted. We all remember the ceremony in 1991. The Nobel Committee had arranged for 2 Burmese musicians to fly in from Los Angeles to play Suu Kyi's favorite piece. That same piece will be played here again today. The high point of that ceremony was a speech that her son Alexander delivered on behalf of his mother. He emphasized the prize was not primarily an award for his mother, but for the many who fought for democracy in Burma under very difficult circumstances. He expressed the hope that even within the military forces, there might be people who wanted victory for democracy. I know, he said, that within the military there are those to whom the present policies of fear and repression are abhorrent, violating the most sacred principles of Buddhist heritage. It was a conviction my mother reached in the course of her dealings with those in positions of authority. And we Norwegians still remember Alexander's words well, when he said, "The Burmese can today hold their heads a little higher in the knowledge that in this far distant land their suffering has been heard and heeded. We never forgot Aung San Suu Kyi. When we celebrated the 100th anniversary of the Nobel Peace Prize in 2001, with more than 30 Peace Prize laureates attending, we left one chair empty, and the appeals for your freedom were many. So dear Aung San Suu Kyi, you have always held a place in our hearts. And we have asked ourselves all along, where do you draw your strength from? Isolated from the outside world. In the beginning, your family was allowed to visit you. This was because the authorities thought your family could manage to convince you to leave the country. When that failed, they were no longer allowed to visit you. Even when your husband's life was ebbing away due to cancer, he was not allowed in. When the authorities opened a package from your family and used the contents against you, and the content was a lipstick and an exercise video, you refused to accept supplies from the outside world. You sold furniture to buy food. Deficiency diseases became a problem. You must have had infinite faith in your cause, in our common cause. Like Nelson Mandela, you could reach out to your prison guards. Like Liu Xiaobo, you could say, I have no enemies. In your own words recently, I have tremendous goodwill towards the military, so it doesn't bother me to sit with them. We know that you have become a true humanitarian through Buddhism and meditation. The idea of love, tenderness, metta carries your message. You said not only should one speak only the truth, one's speech should lead to harmony. It should be kind and pleasant, and it should be beneficial. No bitterness, no animosity, only a true champion for mankind can behave like this. We must also remind one another of what fear is when we are here today. And that is counterpart, and the counterpart is hope. In your essay, Freedom from Fear, you write, within a system which denies the existence of basic human rights, fear tends to be the order of the day. Fear of imprisonment, fear of torture, fear of death, fear of losing friends, family, property or means of livelihood, fear of poverty, livelihood, fear of poverty, fear of failure. But rulers also feel fear. They are not as powerful as